Cheers. My 9 p.m. espresso here.
My 9 a.m. espresso. Nice 12-hour diff. Love that.
Yeah, man.
Still an easier time zone than anywhere on the Asian coast.
Yeah, that's cool. But we've always, throughout the years, found time for each other. So here
Absolutely.
we are. Episode, I don't even know, 469, Splitting Atom. How are you doing, man?
Good. Rocking. Ready. This year is busy. You know,
Yeah,
people are coming back.
There's a lot, yeah. People are motivated again. They're hunting airdrops again. They're excited about crypto again.
So that Celestia airdrop was wild.
That was wild, yeah. And then the Dime airdrop that we got for the TI airdrop, and then now we're getting
wild
airdrop, and
the
Neutron airdrop, which is now at like almost $2 per Neutron token. So that was also a nice one. Stride airdrop.
Been great to see the Neutron team starting to make some strides here. Love those folks. And, you know, with the sort of blow up of Juno, we've needed a strong permissionless Cosmoverse chain. And it's like awesome to see Neutron take that mantle on.
We're starting off strong. I see people are coming in, BM, Habibis. Also, the bad kits are blowing up. Congratulations. You got a bad kit.
Oh, yeah.
That's been nice.
You know, my profile pick, when I bought it, I think it was the most expensive bad kid. And I paid like what was at the time around $8,000 for it. And that's the floor now. And we just had the most expensive bad kid sell today for $45K, which is just huge. Love to see that. Bad kids on a run.
And also like it drags up the whole like other collections there, right? Like after the filters pumping and like all the other ones, Strange Clan NFTs are pumping. So there's a thing like NFT Cosmos have been like underserved over the years, but I think now it's like pumping hard, catching up a lot.
Totally. You know, I do want to just call out the incredibly hard work that Shane did over the bear market through a lot of like very, very frustrating things. You know, that whole situation with him and Jake and, you know, the inflationary tokens hitting the price that hit Stargaze just like it hit everyone else. And Shane kept that community together. He kept shipping features. He kept building what users needed, and it pays off, you know, and this is, I think that something I love about crypto is how meritocratic it is. You know, if you can put up with the pain and you can put up with the bullshit and you can go just keep shipping and keep your head down and build your thing, like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And like I was on a call with Shane yesterday and he had a huge fucking smile on his face and he's just stoked about what's coming next. And, you know, after chatting with him for the last couple of years where it's been kind of frustrating, good to see folks smiling again. And I think we're seeing that like broadly across the cosmos.
100%, yeah. But Shane, like one of the most underrated builders in Cosmos, I think.
Yeah,
he's just been pulling through insanely, and also like not just like surviving the bear market, but doubling down during the bear market, because that's a whole different thing.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah, man.
Shane built few know, but Shane built a protocol called True Story on top of the Cosmos SDK before the Cosmos Hub launched. So like he's been building Cosmos for a hot minute.
Yeah, you know, because when we started Splitting Atom, I think the original concept was that we both are basically the hosts and we have guests on.
Yeah,
we did it for a while, and then I don't know, it just ended up being you and me, and like we're just having a conversation.
This is a fun format. You know, we tried to get a guest on today, and that didn't work out. And you know, maybe next time we'll get a guest. But yeah, this is also a great format too.
We had debates over the years. You know, remember the Cal debates, Solana stuff. Friendly debates, not like we're better, but it was a very interesting debate, I think. So yeah, maybe, you know, if that's what also people want to hear in the future, like getting, you know, Shane back on, maybe Sisla and Greg and Sunny and Zaki, like all these guys. I think
I'd love to hear from Greg. I caught up with Greg a couple months ago, but it's been a minute. Akash is on a tear. It's great to see them really starting to get some adoption. Very stoked about that.
Now I feel like in general, a lot of these Cosmos projects, Akash, Stargaze, even Injective, right? And the new one, Celestia, same network, they're just raising so much awareness on the Cosmos ecosystem as a whole, right? And I think if you compare it now to like even 6 months ago, like the tide is incredibly high now for Cosmos, right? It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure your inbox is exploding with like requests from builders and partners and everything. And so is mine from like content creators and projects that want to just talk and learn about Cosmos and get involved. It's at an absolute all-time high, at least from, speaking for myself here. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like mid-October was the low.
Yeah.
And like that was like 3 months ago, basically. Like that's...
So November 2nd was when that was your birthday also, when we talked last, splitting atom here on the show. But I actually want to go back. I want to go back to, let me share my screen.
It's making me happy.
Here, can you see my screen?
Oh yeah, there it is.
Times.
I was living in my in-laws' house back then.
There we go. And I had a virtual background, and I was pale as fuck.
You look great.
I was pale, but look at the date, February 11, 2021. We just had our anniversary 4 days ago. Our 3
years ago. Three years ago.
And look at the, so that's where I want to start, right? Because obviously that was a time when you onboarded me into Cosmos. I think we had our first call like off camera, but just a private call like
that 2 or 3 months
actually I think late December or early February, like shortly before that. And that was the first time where you told me like with the launch of IBC, we're essentially shipping the Cosmos white paper. It's like, well, what is this? That doesn't work, right? Like
doesn't compute.
Like we're in crypto, right? White papers are just fairy tale ideas that never get achieved, right? So I want to actually go through the timestamps here, which I did back then. Like it's all like chaotic. Like I never updated them.
Oh yeah.
But so it starts off where we talk about Stargate, and Stargate was the upgrade that brought IBC to life, right? Do you remember like that phase? I think for you, it was a crazy busy phase, right?
Yeah, it was. We had a lot of stuff going on. We had the relayer. I had just helped launch Akash. So you can see down further in the timestamps, you can see the Akash network. Oh God, talking about mirror protocol. Man.
Bro,
been talking a bunch about Terra with folks lately. Whenever I meet normies and I have to tell them what I do, I'm like, oh yeah, I work on this thing called Cosmos. And they're like, I don't know if I've heard of that. Like, do you know about Solana? And I'm like, oh yeah, do you remember Terra? And they're like, yeah, the one that blew up. And I was like, yeah, that was the software that we built.
But I mean, back then, like you were actually talking like mad alpha.
Huge.
It was early alpha there.
Yeah.
One thing I would say from that list, as I'm just reading it, that has never changed topic-wise, that never faded away, is atom utility, right? I think that's still something like we're trying to figure out today. But we can talk about this because that's also a lot of questions we got. I actually want to ask you, do you remember like what the Airdrop Alpha League was that we talked about February 11, 2021?
Well, that might have been Osmosis.
That's exactly right.
I think that was Osmosis, as a matter of fact, because the Osmosis, when was the Osmosis airdrop?
Yeah, that was exactly around that time. Here, no. I shared my screen and I think somewhere, here we go. You see? Look at this. Coming soon, Osmosis.
Oh, yeah.
Those were the good times, the old times. It's crazy.
I remember right around then, I texted Sonny out of the blue, and I was like, yo, bro, you going to beat Gravity Dex to market? And he just texted back, let me cook, homie. And he fucking shipped the thing. I was stoked for Osmosis. Been a stand since day one.
And I remember, like, we talked about, like, shared security, I think, was something that, like, we're like, an idea. And, Gravity, Dex, and Osmosis were kind of, like, the first product ideas to bring IBC to market. So, yeah, man, it's wild. Like, best wallets to store Atom. Like,
Kepler still tops. We got Leap now.
Yeah.
What else do people use? XDeFi. What other wallets do folks use?
Trust wallets. I get that
Trust
a lot.
Wallet still around. Yeah.
Cosmos Station, I think not too much anymore. At least that's not what I'm getting a lot.
I was always surprised that they never got more traction on that wallet. It was well built.
Yeah, I don't know. I think when Kepler kind of launched, or I've not been around in the early days, obviously, but I think they just focused a lot more on the mint scan, I guess. I don't know.
That's been my understanding. But, with what do you need to build a wallet? You need the infrastructure. Mintscan's already got that.
Yeah.
So a huge part of the wallet they already have, and it was just the front end of the UX. I guess my thought on why they didn't get the adoption is I never saw them go out and really sell it a whole ton. Like a couple of posts here and there on Twitter, but like no partnerships with projects and stuff. The way that Mintscan is great at. Mintscan partners with a ton of projects. Anyway, I don't know. That one always was, I was like, why doesn't IBC wallet have more adoption? But I think it's still around though.
Because they were like the earliest, no? Cosmos Station. They were like
Kepler had the first wallet. Okay. Kepler was a rebranding of, I think it was called Looney before that. And Fabo, who's one of the founders of Milky Way now, was the engineer who built out Looney that became Kepler. And then Josh and Tony picked it up. If I remember correctly, that's right. Or was Kepler a different code base or based on the Looney code base? I don't really remember. But yeah, that's the early Cosmos wallet story.
Nice. Well, we should get Josh on here. He has actually never been on the channel. Can you believe that? He never came on.
I can. Josh is like, he's like quiet, powerful. Like, he's kind of quiet.
He's so fun to talk to, and he knows there's a lot of good takes. Like I really want to get him on. Maybe for the next splitting atom, we can convince him to come on.
Josh, we're coming for you.
Yeah, we're coming for you. So let's actually start with what you've been up to.
Yeah.
Strange, what's cooking?
Yeah, so a lot of the IBC expansion stuff we were talking about last year, we're not going to end up doing. So we've kind of been working the last few months on refocusing. We are still maintaining a bunch of the pieces that we continue to build, the relayer, Horcrux, all of those sort of great developer tool type stuff. I think interchain test has been one that's gotten a lot of traction lately. A lot of folks are stoked about that. And we've been refocusing a bit on the validator business and built out a lot of automation there. If folks are interested, it's automation around refilling relayer wallets and automatically pulling and restaking rewards, as well as trading a portion of them into stables to pay taxes, just boring bookkeeping stuff. And we've got a project that's in stealth right now that we've been working on for the last few months, about 6 months now. So should have some more information about that in the next couple of weeks. And I'm sure I'll be back in this space telling you guys all about it.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds very cool. Maybe, next time we talk, we can definitely go deeper in that.
Yeah.
But so also the last time we talked in November. I think in November was already like market was picking up again. But we also had a couple of episodes actually throughout the bear market, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, it's been a very tough time, right? Like especially
hard,
now in hindsight, if
hard
you think
for everybody.
Like how did we make it through, right?
Yeah.
Financially, mentally, like also just like maintaining the belief into what we're doing. But I just think like, especially in Cosmos, there's so many people that have just this deep, deep conviction into like the entire industry, not just like Cosmos, but like everything, right? Like why are we here in crypto in the first place, right? So I think there was one episode where you were really down. It was like,
I think it was about a year ago.
It was a year
ago. Yeah.
And today, I mean, we talked about it in the beginning already, like we're very excited again. So how do you feel coming out of this time, and like where Cosmos stands right now in kind of the broader crypto context.
Yeah, I think the sort of backdrop for that episode last February is like Zaki had just put out that tweet, like we've got like 12 months. And, you know, I think internally, like I felt it. You know, you see people in the Solana ecosystem talking about how during the bear market, VCs didn't want to invest. And there was a lot of skepticism around Solana. Cosmos dealt with the same thing, but worse in a lot of ways. And, you know, when there's a shrinking pie, things become a lot more PvP as people start to fight for a larger and larger share of the pie. So, you know, that had been going on for a while. And the worst of it was after last February. But, you know, what I said then was, hey, this is tough. I think you guys can see I'm tired and this is hard for me. But if we can continue to ship, and here's the big catalysts that are coming towards the end of the year. And I think I listed off DYDX, USDC, Celestia, and I think there were a couple of other things too. And, you know, if we just continue to push, we need to provide the environment for these projects to launch into. And then what we're going to see is a drastically transformed Cosmos that looks a lot different than what it looks like now. And I think that transformation has really happened since we did that episode in November. You know, Celestia launched, I think, a bit before that episode, but the crazy price run up hadn't happened yet. You know, I think that if you go back to last February, the Cosmos Hub made up 70+% of the market cap of Cosmos chains. It was a lot. And, you know, now it's probably 15 or less. And that flip happened very, very quickly. And I don't think people have really fully gotten into the new world yet. You know, I think from a competitive standpoint, it means Atom needs to think a little bit differently about its roadmap and how it needs to go forward. And I think that, you know, based on my conversations with the AA DAO folks, some of that discussion is happening. But, you know, I think we need to recognize market reality a little bit quicker and, you know, figure out how to move forward in the right way. But on the whole, it's incredibly bullish for the ecosystem. As you mentioned, Say and Injective are just onboarding folks by the bucket full. And it's bringing more and more people in. And, you know, the network effects continue to compound.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, coins like Injective. I mean, Injective just went on its own run out of nowhere. Like, just crossed all-time highs as if it's nothing. So I think those events, you know, like are just like reshuffling the market shares within Cosmos, right? Like you were saying, and all the new chains that are recently launched, but that are still coming. I think there's a lot of big projects that are still lined up, right? Like Babylon and Saga, Anoma. What is that? I don't see.
Penumbra.
Penumbra. Okay. Penumbra. Yeah. Privacy projects, right?
Oh yeah.
A lot that's coming. So, but before we talk about this, I actually want to ask you, like, sticking with this whole kind of bear market environment.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, you know, obviously we talked also about it. It's great. A lot of airdrops, everyone's making money, but I feel like people are already throwing out their kind of bear market PTSD out of the window. They don't do research anymore. They just ape into the next airdrop, you know, guide on Twitter, and they just connect their wallets. Everything gets drained. So I don't know, how are you feeling about this, and like what are maybe some of the things that you would advise to people that are either like maybe joined towards the end of the bear market and haven't like fully suffered to be like more cautious with these things, or that are just brand new now in crypto?
Yeah, you know, this is such a crazy industry. And I think that this sort of like wave nature of crypto, like we've all lived through a bunch of these things at this point. And, you know, it is kind of rational to just be aping everything right now. And like, I hate to say that, but, you know, that is, I think, a key thing to do as a builder. You do have to turn off that bear market PTSD and just like fucking go all in. And because the market is kind of that nature. Like when it's a bear, you need to be risk off. Like from the top, you need to be risk off because it's going to be down only for like a year or two. And that's rough. And then when it starts going up again, you need to be risk on because you're going to be surprised to the upside over and over again. So, you know, the lessons that you learn in the bear around security, those are incredibly important. You know, hardware wallets, try to keep things in multi-sigs with your friends if you can. There's a lot better tooling on that. Kepler's launched multi-sig support. There's Resolute from the Vitwit team that has great multi-sig support. There's a few other multi-sig options out there. DAO, obviously an option on Neutron, as well as a number of other chains. But yeah, you know, it's this sort of bipolar personality that you need to have where in the bear you need to be locked down and tight and keep it keep it chill, and then in the bull you got to be running as fast as you can. And you know, now is the time before we're back at ATH and you know things are getting really crazy. Now is the time to make sure you're in all the positions you want to be in and well positioned for the growth.
Do you have an airdrop strategy for yourself? Like, is that something you're like looking at all, or?
Let me see if I can find this tweet from the other day that really made me laugh. It was this one. It was a picture of the two guys with the Bitcoin sweaters, and one said people who didn't sell the news, and like, you know, people just held through the bear market. And then the other one says people who are too busy building to manage their portfolio. Mm-hmm. And I'm in that picture. I'm the one who's too busy building to manage my portfolio. So, you know, I don't really have a strategy on it. You know, we operate on all of these chains. We have staked assets on those chains. So we end up getting those airdrops. I don't really make any effort to maximize it.
Fair enough, yeah. But because, yeah, I mean, obviously now it's a very hot topic and people are just, like I said, aping into that. But I think, yeah, what I always say, like, when in doubt, don't connect your wallet, don't claim stuff. You know, people are just chasing those airdrops left and right. So, yeah. Did you look at the Starknet airdrop? I think that's the latest one, right? That also, like...
I did. I got a small amount of Starknet tokens.
Yeah, because there's also like a lot of that's actually very cool. Like a lot of airdrops given to like contributors and builders, right? Like not just stakers or holders.
I have no idea what they airdrop me tokens for. I don't know anyone over at Starknet. Stoked for them though. Like that's great. It's a nice couple thousand random tokens that I get to add to my inventory and figure out how to manage and forget about. That's you know, like there's a bunch of ways to be a long-term investor. One way to be a long-term investor is just get things and then forget about them. And then a few years later, you find them and you're like, oh my God, I had forgotten about these Starknet tokens. Like one of those things for me has been Helium Network. You know, that one with the routers and stuff, they migrated to Solana. Back in like 2016, I bought a Helium router. And I ran it out of my apartment in Berkeley for like 3 years. And I honestly didn't even think about it. And at the peak of the last bull market, I went and looked at it and it was worth like a lot of money, like hundreds of thousands. And, you know, obviously it's a lot less now, but it's still a non-trivial amount of money. And I'm just going to hold it because like, what else am I going to do with it? And, you know, that's definitely one way to be a long-term investor.
That's true. Yeah. Test out as much as you can, get involved. But I think also like with this mindset to like understand that this is all like highly experimental and like 98% is probably going to go to zero, right?
Yeah.
And I think now we're in a market phase where everyone is excited and positive again, but like 6 months ago, there was just so much negativity. And I'm wondering, like, was there any kind of learning that you got in the bear market about Cosmos, maybe the builders culture, the kind of the ecosystem itself, like during the bear market, or how are you coming out of that with your views on like Cosmos as an ecosystem?
That's a good question. You know, I think for me personally, I was too trusting with a number of folks. And I think this time around, I'll be a little bit more circumspect, which sucks. I don't like that.
spec mean? I don't know that word.
It
like
means
more cautious,
to carefully consider everything that might happen, wary.
Okay.
So yeah, that's one part of it. Another part of it is, I think for a long time the ecosystem was small enough where it was possible to like know all the builders and potentially try to coordinate them. And we've talked a lot on this forum as well as others about Relay or DAO or some like Cosmos developer thing. I think the ecosystem's grown to a point now where that's just not really feasible. There's too many pockets of development. There's too many different people doing work, and it's much harder to sort of keep track and align values. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there's so many, like, it's a good problem to have. There's a lot of people working on this stuff and a lot of innovation. And I think that my focus over the next year or two is going to be trying to figure out how to package that up and offer it in a way that is really compelling for a broader class of users.
But I think that's good advice. Like, but do you think, like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like the bull run is really the time where you make such good connections, because also people are just so positive and like, good only, everyone's making money, and you kind of start trusting people. But then in the bear market, I think it really shows. And I don't know. Do you have any like advice? Like, how do you, like, if there's now a 2-year bull run, are you just like less out there, like less close, like making close?
I'm going to be out there. But, I think that the folks that I end up working more closely with, I will be a bit more choosy. I think, last bear market, we didn't have a whole ton of choice. It was like the people who were here were the people who were here. And that was kind of who we had to work with. But as Cosmos grows, I think there's going to be, Cosmos has always had a distinction between the more professional folks who are looking to sort of scale this and the folks who are more hobbyist or, community open source kind of thing. A little bit less focused on bringing the technology more mainstream, more focused on their ideology or what they're trying to achieve with the software, rather than the rising tide lifting all boats. And I think, looking for collaborators, the folks that you want to find are people who are interested in positive sum interactions. With, you and I have a great example of that. I've tried to give you all of the knowledge I have, and what you've done with that is gone and built a business, but you've also brought so many other people in, and like, this is a great partnership that we have. And I think that there's many examples of those in Cosmos, but I think that there's also examples of people where the interactions are all one way. And I think that when you or anyone else who's listening to this is choosing partners, make sure there's a positive sum interaction going on. And if there's an extractive type of relationship, no matter which side of it you're on, you should probably question yourself and say, like, is this something that's going to weather the storm? Because there's always going to be another storm. This thing's cyclical, and it's going to be for a while. And when things turn bad, those extractive relationships that might be not overly burdensome become much more challenging. And I think that that's,
they become very toxic. I think I have similar experiences, and like, obviously in the bear market, that's just how it is, right? Everyone's losing money, everyone's trying to blame others. I think specifically you and I, like, we have always done our best to be very positive throughout these times, especially publicly. But of course, it's not been easy. I think for you and your business, for me and my business, it's been tough. But I think on top of what you just said, I think one thing that's also very important, whenever you look for like a business partner or someone that you hire for your team, to make sure that person is really authentic and genuine and like honest. And for me, whenever we look into like, who do we work with, who do we hire, this is always the number one thing for me, is like, in the first place, to have like a good connection, and to also be like, to at least have some sort of trust, right? Because you don't have that, and then you can build on that. If you don't have that, it will go the other way and it will turn into this toxic relationship that you said. which can really be very destructive, like mentally, but also for your business, right?
Yeah, totally. You know, two questions that I always ask folks that I interview. I really ask two questions when I interview people. You know, I've got my technical folks do the technical interviews now, so I don't do technical interviews anymore. And the two questions I ask are, have you ever worked in a startup? If you ever worked at a remote company, like, this is a weird environment that we work in. Like, what's your familiarity with it? And then the other question I ask is, why are you in crypto? Why do you want to be a pirate? And if you're in crypto, why do you want to work in Cosmos? And I think that, you know, that for me has been a great screening for people I hire, because you get really honest answers out of folks, you know. And if somebody says, I'm in crypto because I want to make money, like, that's not the person I want to hire. I want to hire people who are here because they believe in the future of this industry for other reasons, for reasons above just money. And those are the folks that, you know, I've got the pie and the upward chart on my profile, and there's a lot of other folks in Cosmos doing the same. I think the Skip folks started that one, but, you know, this idea that we're all building something collaboratively during the bear, you really see who is in it collaboratively and who's just trying to get theirs. And like, that is kind of the big thing that you learn during the bear. And on a macro scale, you know, there's the FTXs and the Lunas and stuff, and like, the people who are not in it for the right reasons get washed out.
Yeah.
And that's a healthy thing.
No, I think the bear market is really there to also like humble people and to also show the true colors of people. And I think, yeah, especially if you like lost significant amounts of your net worth because you're in crypto and that crypto goes to zero or whatever, I think if you experience that once, I think your kind of views change a lot, or like adapt a lot to that new environment. But yeah, man, it's wild for sure. But yeah, let's talk about Cosmos Hub stuff. I mean, this is still, after all, splitting atoms.
There's a couple of like pretty decent questions in here. Before we start Cosmos Hub stuff, maybe we can like knock out a couple of random questions. And I have one to start off, which is, Winfred joined Stakecito.
Sorry? Winfred? Yeah, Winnie joined.
Huge hire. I'm stoked for you guys. She's great.
She's so good.
Yeah.
Amazing. Very positive, very like ambitious.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Yeah, amazing. Like,
and she's a degen too. She's like, just like, that's who she is. It's
very
like
creative. She understands kind of marketing, communications, and yeah, it's good vibes. I think the internal Stakecito communications are just at an all-time high in terms of vibes and positivity. So yeah, she's been great.
One I did want to handle is, Lee asks, will there be a zkIBC?
This one, yeah.
And yes, there will. There's a number of people working on this. You know, one team I would highlight is the Union team. They are working on some zkIBC, and, you know, Polymer has been very prominent in pushing this zkIBC narrative. There's also a number of other folks. One thing I would say about zkIBC is that it's just IBC, but with different proofs underneath. And, you know, there's a lot of effort involved in making those ZK proofs work within an IBC context. And those ZK proofs themselves are kind of pushing the envelope of what's possible right now. And there's just a very interesting dynamic in that ZK market right now. Which, if I can take a brief sort of detour here, if you saw the announcement yesterday of the succinct ZK VM that takes Rust input, that's a great example of something that's going to obsolete work of hundreds of teams potentially, and something that gives that great performance with that level of developer experience is just head and shoulders above what else is out there on the market. And in the ZK industry, this kind of thing where it's like a new level that completely wipes a lot of the existing playing field is happening on a yearly or bi-yearly basis. So anyway, that's just an interesting thing about that market. But yes, zkIBC is a thing. It's coming. We will likely see the first versions of it live this year. Probably Q3 is my guess, maybe late Q2.
Do you know what's the stage of Polymer right now?
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't also heard any. I think they announced their raise like a couple of weeks or months ago. They had a huge raise.
They've got a great marketing team. They're kind of continuing to push the narrative. I have not seen a lot of their work. One note about these ZK things is that there's a lot of closed source code, and there's a lot of competition between teams to be the first to go do something. So the teams tend to be quite secretive. The Union team, I've seen their code working in test nets. They run we're in their Strangelove runs a validator in their test nets. So they have their code working between Sepolia and their test net. They've been very active on the BD side. But I think that regardless of who is first or gets the most volume, the zkIBC thing is going to be a huge vector for all of this L2 liquidity coming into Cosmos and vice versa. And when we're talking about network effects for IBC, already extremely strong. And earlier in the show, when we're talking about all of these new projects and how much more TVL and market cap there is in Cosmos, that drastically increases the IBC network effect and has gotten us to this place where the IBC economy, if you think about it that way, is self-sustaining and kind of continuing to grow on this nice trajectory. This zkIBC stuff is going to open up an entire new set of folks. And when we think about the interoperability protocol wars, this is going to be the thing that wins it for IBC. It's once we're available in truly all of these EVMs with the same semantics, and people can really start building robust systems and developer tools around that. And we've got some exciting stuff there that I can't wait to share. I think there's going to be this huge explosion. And we've seen the first part of it this year.
Yeah, no, IBC is definitely getting out there. And I think we're almost crossing 100 chains right now, right? On mainnet, 100 IBC chains.
Yep.
That's wild,
yeah.
Should we talk Atom Cosmos Hub?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so you said earlier, like a year ago or something, the Atom dominance was around 70%. Now it's around 10-15%.
Those are estimates. But yeah, the magnitude of the change is
probably it's probably even less, to be honest. I mean, if you compare fully diluted valuations, for sure, like TR alone is 20 billion. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've been obviously covering the launch of Asteroids, Inscription, CFT20s, now the Babylon announcement, Neutron and Stride are gaining traction. Like, how do you see kind of the relevance of the Cosmos Hub these days?
I think that's a great question. We've had this discussion on the call multiple times, but I think that the hub is yet again at a place of identity crisis. We passed that proposal last year for Informal to be the hub team, and the Informal team has a very opinionated version of what they think is right for the Cosmos Hub. And it is strengthening the Cosmos Hub as a state machine and as an independent entity through shared security and things like mega blocks. I don't really understand the Atom Wars thing, to be honest. It seems like a meme, and I don't understand the technical implementation there. But things like Time Wave and making Atom interchain money, that's the focus right now. And I think on the money front, there's going to be a strong competition from folks like Celestia. And now there's USDC in the ecosystem that's going to take a lot of that moneyness away. So between Celestia, DYDX, Injective, Say, other projects launching, Dimension, all of those have tremendously valuable tokens that they are also pushing to be interchain money or modular money, as the case may be. So last year, when Atom had zero competition for that, they took a long time to get to the place where they were shipping products in that area. And we still haven't shipped significant products in that area, besides Stride and liquid staking. But that actually benefits all of the other modular money competitors. So yeah, we'll see how Atom competes for that. On the shared security front, with projects like Ethos and Saga and Celestia coming to market, there's now significant competition for the shared security offering that Atom has. And I think there are increasing questions as to why projects like Neutron or Stride, which could easily fund their own validator sets, are going to continue to work on and with the hub, especially if it's not the only game in town anymore. So I think that the Cosmos hub is at a bit of a crossroads right now. Whether or not the momentum that they've developed over the last 6 months can carry them is kind of up to the community. But I do think that the Atom Accelerator DAO is doing a fantastic job, and the Informal team has done a great job at executing on their roadmap.
What do you think about this Babylon announcement? I don't know if you got to look at it properly.
I think that if you want restaked Atom and you want Atom to be money, introducing Bitcoin as a competition for that, for security, makes me question the need for hub security. So I love Babylon. I think that Bitcoin is deeply aligned with the Cosmos ethos, and it's great to see Bitcoin coming into Cosmos in a real way. I'd love to see more of that. Whether or not it is bullish for the hub is kind of up in the air for me right now.
Your take on inscriptions?
They're really fun. They're fun. I don't think there's anything else to say besides that. People are clearly having a blast with them. I've inscribed a few things. This has always been one of Jay Kwan's huge things that he wanted to see was people doing inscriptions. And, the first crypto project I worked on was Blockstack, which is seeing a huge resurgence recently, just hit ATH. And that's basically doing inscriptions on Bitcoin. So there's a long history of this within crypto. I think it's really cool. It's cool to see the Delphi team building a community around that on the hub. Yeah, it's cool. It's a fun thing to do with blockchains. It's kind of like graffiti. It's like blockchain graffiti. Yeah. And like graffiti is cool and beautiful, and it brings character and liveness to cities in a way that you're not going to get otherwise. And I think inscriptions kind of do the same thing.
I think what inscriptions really did right away was just to restore and revive some of the culture on Atom, right?
Definitely.
I think that's been like
the most culture thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know, like there might be a way where this could actually turn into something like with more utility, because I think they also want to build that out, like the Delphi team, Redphone and Donovan. And I talked a lot to them. They're very excited about this. So, and I think just having Delphi kind of building on the hub is actually interesting.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Isn't Astroport on Neutron?
Astroport is on Neutron,
yeah.
Mainly. Yeah, but it sounds like you're not that bullish on Atom then.
This is what I said last year. Where I've placed my bets and where my energy is building out the rest of the IBC ecosystem and making IBC as a communication protocol win. And that's been my goal for years at this point, and that's where my focus has been. And I think that that positioning as one of the only core developers to make that their focus has put me kind of outside the hub in a lot of ways. And it's helped me kind of like look at the ecosystem more critically. This abrupt change in hub dominance that we've seen over the last few months is something that was foreseeable a year ago. And, I've been building for that world for a while. And I think that the hub has ignored a lot of what's going on. And I think a lot of the discussions right now with the hub are trying to think through how to better position the hub for this world that we're now in. So, yeah.
Okay. So if there was a bull run starting tomorrow, where do you think Atom would stand by the end of the year? If it goes on for like 8-9 months, would it top out of fall out of the top 100? Do you think it would just like trickle down and become irrelevant, or like based on what we know today?
I think it would likely retain its relative positioning, but as we saw in the last bull run, there's some stuff that's going to drop out of the top 20, and there's some stuff that's going to come in, but the majority of the market cap gain accrues to the coins at the top. So like while Atom might still be in the mid 20s at the end of the bull run, it's in a very different competitive position than it could be if it was in the teens or in the, you know, and like, again, I don't like to do price things, but it seems like based on the price action so far, and like when you watch price action, I think, you know, watching which coins jump right after a big drop is a huge one. And then watching which coins sort of like pump uncorrelated is another one that I look at. And then coins that are like clearly outperforming. And I see things in Cosmos doing that, and the hub is not one of them.
Yeah. Well, my thesis is that I think if the hub was in a like really bad position, I'm not saying it's in a great position, but I think it's in a kind of neutral, like slightly good position.
Exactly. I kind of agree with you. Yeah.
Like if it was in a really bad position, it would have been flushed out of the like top 30, 40, 50 at least, right? We've seen it 2018, 19 with like, you know, the Ethereum killers back then, EOS, NEM, NEO, right? Like Ontology, right? Remember Ontology? Like if you look them up now on CoinGecko, they're probably like bottom page 1 or page 2, page 3, right? So I don't think, I think like the identity crisis for Atom is like ongoing, right? And I don't think there will ever be like a proper like clear roadmap out of that. But just seeing Delphi kind of building stuff, inscriptions, is very exciting. The Babylon announcement, I think, is really cool. There's still some life there, right? So,
yeah. I strongly agree, Cito. I think that, you know, there's a lot of, like, the reason why I try to share the things that are sort of like negative for the hub is I hear a lot of groupthink within the Cosmos community about the hub. And I see a lot of people like bullish, bullish, bullish. And I don't see a lot of internal voices saying, hey, there's some potential issues with this roadmap. Here's where we're sort of missing. And, you know, this has always been the role that I've played in the ecosystem, trying to sort of talk about the realities, and has not always made me popular, but I do think it's important.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I mean, we talked about this here over the past years, obviously, as well, publicly. So I think, you know, the community understands that. And I also made a tweet recently where I like just shared kind of how I view Atom. And I don't think you can really fade Atom, like not have exposure at all. But I think if Atom is your only exposure and you think you're in Cosmos, you have exposure to Cosmos, you're like not doing it right? Like, because especially now, like Cosmos is such a vast ecosystem, right? Celestia, Injective, Sommelier, and all these different ecosystems, narratives, Akash, we talked about that, Fetch, AI, right? It's all like, there's so many different verticals, so many different directions and roadmaps and teams. Some of them don't even properly identify with Cosmos, right? They don't even care. They're just like, we're our own ecosystem, right? So, yeah.
Barachain, another huge launch coming. I think that was one that I was talking about last year, and they've dragged a little bit, but I think they've done that for a good reason. And, you know, I have seen few folks do go to market. Movement Labs, Guy. What do you think you know, Guy, on the question of other VMs, you know, I think that one of the greatest strengths of Cosmos is the interoperability. And that's obviously epitomized by IBC, but the fact that you can run a CosmWasm VM, a Move VM, and an EVM all on the same Cosmos chain using open source code, and have the code in those 3 virtual machine environments interact with each other and with Go code that's written into the chain, there's no other ecosystem that comes close. And the most important thing about developer onboarding is to meet developers where they are. If you give them something that's too complicated, they're not going to want to learn it. And the closer you can get to tools, languages, experiences that they're comfortable with and they understand from their previous experience, the easier it is to onboard those folks. And this is why I think Cosmos has the strongest stack out of any of the ones out there, is we do the best job of meeting developers where they are. And, you know, the Move VM on Cosmos is going to be another one of those things.
Yeah. IC55 is asking your thoughts on Sommelier.
Multi-chain just launched today. You know, I think it took a little bit longer than we were planning, but
it's already 1 million in TVL, right?
Yeah, in one strategy on ARB. So yeah, you know, that's the next phase of growth. I think we've seen a little bit of slowdown in protocol TVL growth, but I expect that to pick up after these multi-chain strategies start to take hold, because that's where most of the farming and stuff has been happening. And you know, the sad thing about the delay on the multi-chain launch is that some missed out on some of that. But you know, we're in the party now, and it'll be cool to see.
Nice. Yeah, there's a lot that's coming. Just going through. See, there's some other question. Noble, what's up with Noble? People asking me on Twitter.
Noble's fucking rocking. You know, one of my favorite things about Noble,
it just surpassed Polygon, I think, right? And like,
no, it didn't. Polygon had a huge 50 million deposit, so we're now a bit behind Polygon. But we did just top 120 million Noble USDC issued, which is huge. Still on track for my 1 billion by end of year prediction. I think that's very doable at this point. Yeah, Noble's rocking. You know, the biggest issue after Terra was the lack of stablecoin liquidity in Cosmos, and the Noble team set out to fix that, and we've done it. You know, there is good stablecoin liquidity there with CCTP. There's an easy bridge to bridge value into the Cosmos ecosystem. And a big part of the reason why Cosmos has continued to be relevant and has attracted capital during this recent run is because we've had stablecoin liquidity. So it's been a huge part of what's happening. And it's really cool to see the work that we've done have an impact like that.
I also just had a call with the Onomi team, like literally an hour ago.
Lalo's fantastic.
Yeah, they're amazing. I just learned about them, to be honest. I haven't like looked into them deeply, but they also told me they have some cool stuff cooking with like Forex, and also their stable token that's coming in a couple of months. So that's going to be interesting. And there's Inter, IST.
Yeah.
USDC, obviously Noble, USDT on Kava. I think that's still a little bit slow there, but yeah, man.
Yeah, you know, the USDT demand is primarily on Tron, and it's primarily Southeast Asian retail demand. And like, just to go ahead and say, that's fucking fantastic. That's like actually crypto being used for real payments in real life. And it's by far the largest deployed use case of that. But in terms of, I don't think that there's a lot of crossover between people who use Tron and Cosmos users right now. And that's why we're seeing a lot more growth in USDC, because Cosmos people are much more likely to be in the parts of the world where USDC is dominant. And the people with money in Cosmos use USDC as their primary on and off ramp. So that's why we've seen USDC growth a lot higher than USDT growth. This was my thesis in the beginning anyway. Noble did spend some effort and time trying to work with USDT, but USDT did not want to issue on the same platform that USDC was for their own reasons. So, you know, we'll see how that goes moving forward.
Thoughts on Agoric New Narrative? Did you follow that?
Agoric New Narrative is the old Agoric narrative. This is the same narrative that they've been using for the entire time. And it's this thing around asynchronous composability. And I strongly believe in that narrative. We've built a lot of the tooling to help make that happen. You know, their smart contracting protocol on Agoric allows you to await across many blocks. And like, this is one of those nerdy technical things that's going to take people a lot of time to understand and build cool protocols around. But when and if that takes fire, it's going to be really neat. You know, I have always thought, and one of the reasons why I've not spent more time working on Agoric is that in order for this narrative that Agoric has to be successful, the IBC economy needs to be much larger than it is now. And I think we're sort of at the bottom size where these type of orchestration use cases are going to start becoming more and more important. And as the IBC economy grows, both through growth of TVL and token price within existing IBC chains, as well as through adding new IBC chains through things like zkIBC, those orchestration use cases are going to become more and more important.
Let's do 2 quick ones and then wrap it up.
I can stay for a few more minutes. I'm just missing engineering stand up, and I don't think they'll mind.
Noble going on app, yes or no?
We'll see. I don't know. This is a Yelena question, not a Jack question.
Okay, and this is a final one. When Lambo for holding up?
Somebody just needs to inscribe some Lambos on the hub. Great. Asteroid Protocol, inscribe photos of Lambos and airdrop them to everyone. That's a great Asteroid Protocol growth hack. I am highly, highly excited about that.
That's utility. There we go. Atom utility.
There are, I can go. There's a few more good questions in here. I'll just sort of pick some random.
Yeah, man. We can do it. Do
you need to jump? Do you have a 10?
We can do a few more minutes. Yeah,
I thought you have 4 or 5 more minutes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, okay. I thought you had
Lee asks, asynchronous composability means atomic transaction or not necessarily. Lee, in fact, asynchronous composability and atomic transactions are mutually exclusive. Atomic means that there is no asynchrony, i.e. it means that those are synchronous transactions. And this is like what happens on Solana, where they have one global transaction ordering, where when you submit a transaction to Solana, it gets pipelined to the proposer of the next block. The proposer of that block groups those transactions into a block. That block gets committed to the network. And all of those things happen at the same time. Synchronous composability is like what happens on an individual computer when you do an operation and your computer blocks until it completes that operation before it can go on to the next one. This is a really easy mental model for a lot of people. This is the way, you just go one thing to the next, and it makes programming a lot easier. And because DeFi initially happened on Ethereum is this one big single threaded computer. So a lot of people built applications that rely on this synchrony assumption. But if you look at the internet, when you're working with 2 computers, you have a network in between that's necessarily flaky, and you have no idea whether or not your message is going to get there, and it might take some time to do that. And in programming, we need to model that network flakiness and the time that it takes to do that. And this is where the word asynchronous comes in. This is how asynchronous programming works. And there's, you see Eigenlayer and Solana and all these people talking about scaling atomic composability. But the fact is that invariably that creates locks, that makes programs slower, that couples things more closely to each other. And I think that, the research meta is finally coming to a place where they're saying, hey, global atomic composability is likely not going to happen. And there's going to be islands of atomic composability, but that most value flows are going to happen asynchronously. And this is the world that we built IBC for. I think you guys see a lot of stuff on Twitter about Cosmos just being right about a lot of things. This is one of the things that I have always believed that we were right on, and I continue to believe that we are really right on. And yeah, so anyway, did want to just clear that one up.
No, that's good. There's some good alpha, good explainers.
Another Lee one. Appreciate the analogies you describe these processes. Absolutely. Thank you, Guy. Polygon ag layer is going to moon, especially if IMX game hits. So one note about the Polygon aggregation layer, my understanding of the Polygon aggregation layer is it's only things on top of Polygon. And that it also depends on state being written to Polygon itself. So this problem with locks and things that you get with atomic composability, Polygon is inherently going to run into those, A. And B, the size of the interoperability network is limited to the chains that aggregation layer supports. Whereas IBC, which is asynchronous, allows it to support many, many architectures. And we've got a ton of architectures supported. And we've got our own aggregation layers too, with things like Union. So yeah, I think that it's likely to cause a short-term pump in the Polygon token price. And they're probably likely to try to inflate some statistics to make it seem like it's larger than it is. But I do think that this pales in comparison to what we're about to see from IBC this cycle.
Let's take this one on as well. ETH has problems with gas, BTC with scalability, others with not being Cosmos. What are the Cosmos ecosystem problems that need improvement?
Comet BFT performance is the largest one by far. It's a huge issue. It's something that over the next year as an ecosystem, we need to make a significant stride on.
Let's take the final one. Thoughts on Quasar role in the interchain?
Love Quasar. I think it's fantastic. Valentine. Yeah, I'm in the seed. I'm a huge investor. I love Valentine. We hang out. Like, he's one of my favorite founders in the space. The energy and positivity he brings, I just think is fantastic. You know, Som is kind of a similar chain, but Som has focused more on EVM stuff, and Quasar has focused more on stuff within the Cosmos eco. And I think that's been a great thing. You know, if you look at traditional finance, these types of portfolio management things, like, that's a massive business, and there's room for many, many very successful protocols in that. I think Quasar has done a fantastic job of helping expose these yield opportunities in the interchain in a much more easy to consume way, where you don't have to be at your terminal all day sending transactions. And I think that there's room for a lot more of that. I'm very, very bullish on Quasar.
Yeah, I also think it's very synergistic to Som. And also there's a great podcast. You also were on that, I think, with the Friends Validator, with the Builder's Diary.
Yuri's just fantastic. That was a great one.
I listened to Valentine's, but I have to still listen to yours. Because,
you know, Yuri asked me like a lot about sort of like the progression of my career. And like, I've talked a lot about different pieces of that, but in terms of like, mainly I've talked about the beginning of it, where like I went from cooking to doing product management, and people love to hear that. But like, what I've done over the last couple of years has gone from doing just product management and engineering to more investing, leadership, sort of CEO type stuff. And, you know, that transition happened kind of organically for me in a weird way. And I talked through it in detail on that show. I thought it was very fun. Yuri's thoughtful and a wonderful host.
I love the format. I was also on there recently, and it's good because I think also for everybody that's like invested in Cosmos or following Cosmos, if you get a deeper like context to the people that are active in that ecosystem, I think it's very helpful, right, to navigate through Cosmos, because it's all like, you know, on Twitter, everyone is like, you know, like talking about XYZ, drama, debates, discussions, coin price, mooning this, mooning that. But like, if you really learn about the person behind the project, behind the validator, behind the coin, I think this adds a new kind of layer and connection between the community and the builders, right? And I think that's an amazing format. I really love that format. So I'm very bullish on that, because like people don't really like care about that, right? And the social element, I think, is super important in crypto. And just
it is. You know, we're a community of people doing something that, like, you know, one thing I've been feeling a lot lately is like, I am an American in an industry where a lot of people outside of America is like, dude, why do you live in America? Like, you should come move out of your country because your country hates what you're doing. And in my country, the people who aren't in my industry think that what I do is criminal or a scam. And, you know, being able to continually talk to and work with folks who believe the same things I do and are pushing towards the outcomes that we all want to see, you know, that gives you the strength to push through the shitty times. And, you know, that community and that group of people is extremely important. And it is the core of Cosmos. You know, blockchains are made out of people. And I think that it's easy to forget that.
Out of people that also go through the same struggles and same dark times and don't always have the like motivation and I think like in crypto, it's this weird thing because everybody wants to be right, like about their backs they're holding. There's a lot of back bias, but I still think there's a lot of like a lot of like unknowns in the equation that people don't necessarily see. So I think we should also talk more about, and we talked about it a lot today here as well. So yeah, but man, I hope you come out to Dubai, you know, come to Dubai.
When is it?
Shisha here, you can move here, you know, next
door. When is it?
Cosmoverse. October 21st.
October. Okay. Yeah. I've got some time before I need to book.
Move here. Just move here with your entire family. We have shisha every day, and we have a good time.
Awesome. Well, Cito, sir.
Yeah, thanks everybody also for tuning in. Man, we had 200 people. Remember, like when we did this 3 years ago.
That's a good one.
There were like 28 people.
Oh,
60 people. Now it's like 200. So.
Well, we got to do another one soon. Yeah, my stealth thing. I'll have to come on and talk to you about it in a couple of weeks. So.
Oh yes.
Awesome. Well, Cito, thank you very much, sir. Catch you again soon. Later.
Thank you. See you, man. Bye.